100 straight weekdays I have provided this to you. And I'm super stoked about it. 100 episodes. Crazy to think. You know, I remember when I started it, this thing I call Zack Miller Live, it was just a way for me to share a little bit with you. And I'm so grateful for you to let me in to you. What's crazy is this is the first time I've been having tech issues. So for the last 30 minutes or so, I was having a hard time even getting on. Usually I use another tool called Ecamm Live, but that tool did not want to work today. But have no fear. You didn't think I wasn't going to go live for the 100th episode, did you? Because I had to. It was just that important. And as I think about, what I wanted to say, I honestly kept coming up with the same thing over and over again. First off, that I want to thank you guys for always watching and listening and being a part of this. We have many, many more to go. We're at 100 now. I remember there was balloons for the 50th party. I thought about doing another party, but then I just decided I didn't want to do that. So I didn't. That's why you don't see balloons behind me, right? The last time there was balloons everywhere. People were like, oh my God, there's balloons. Couldn't do it. But consistency, doing something, creating a habit, making something happen at the schedule you told it to. So doing this each and every weekday has not been a chore. It's been something that I think is important. It's helped me provide information. It's helped me learn a lot. It's helped me stay on my toes. And when I look back at some of the things that I've done in the past, this show is one of the ones that has been the most consistent. And consistency is something that so many people, I think, struggle with. And even me sometimes where, I'm trying to consistently do something. I'm like, oh, oops. You don't do it one day. What happens? You don't do it the next day. And then the next day and the next day. And so I was interviewing my good buddy Tim Ryan about how many days that he's worked out in a row. And it's like 1,500 or something like that. He's ran at least 2 miles for 1,500 straight days. And one of the reasons he said is because he can't imagine having to go back to one now. I'm like, oh, that's interesting. So no days off. And having this mindset of no days off has been incredibly enlightening to me, because you recognize that you just have to keep going. And you know what? If you do a little bit every day, you're going to get further and further, closer and closer to that goal at hand. What's the goal? I think just helping as many people as possible. I don't necessarily have any crazy goal associated with the show yet, but maybe one day. And so I was listening, I believe it was to a podcast by Rich Roll recently. Rich Roll, apparently, I didn't realize this. He is an ultra runner, marathoner, triathlete, something like that. He's got a podcast, his name, plus podcasts, similar to mine. Zack Miller Says, Rich Roll podcast. Clever. But he was interviewing the lady Des, who I cannot remember her last name, but just won the Boston Marathon. And it was a story about that. Long-form story is really cool. But what was cool about it is she was talking about how some of the days when she was training, it was like negative 40 degrees in Michigan, I believe. And how she was like, I don't want to do it, but you just get out there and it ends up being not that bad. And honestly, a lot of things that we do in life are about just starting. Because usually if we start, we'll finish. So, I don't want to go to the gym, but if you go to the gym, if you make it to the gym, you'll probably work out. If you don't want to, if you want to do a Facebook Live, you just got to start, right? Start writing a blog post, start writing the email, start doing all these things, and usually we finish. Just show up, and then usually we end up doing the task at hand and finishing. And so when I talk about consistency, it really is it's really crazy how being consistent is so important. And so by creating a schedule, saying I'm going to do this thing on this schedule and then doing it is amazing. So if you're listening and you're like, well, I want to start something or I want to do something more, like think about whatever that goal is or whatever that task is or whatever that thing is, right? It could be working out. It could be writing a blog post, going live every day, shooting a podcast, whatever it is, and then put some sort of schedule behind it. And maybe make that schedule something that's a little crazy, like every weekday, every day, every 3 days, maybe it's a word count. If you're writing words, 2,000 words a day, 1,000 words a day, 500 words a day, whatever it might be, but then creating a schedule to it, very similar to the TV shows that we watch. So, Big Brother on CBS at whatever, 8 o'clock on Sundays or something like that. Or, the Today Show on NBC or ESPN Sports Center at 6 and 11. Like, you become accustomed to remembering these things over and over again. And I have been talking a lot about consistency and scheduling and stuff like that, but I think it's important. And the more efficient you become is because of how you schedule things. And you got to make sure that every day, like, you look at something and say, okay, I need to do this. And then you make sure that you do it. And then you do it the next day. And there's this tool that I use called Productive that tracks a lot of these things. So I know that I've worked out 180 something straight days or 182, something like that. I know I've done this show because at the end of it, I put, number 1, number 4, number 7, number 97, number 98, 99, or now at 100. It just gives me that count. So I know that's where I am. And so these little brain hacks, these little Zack hacks of you building up that clout internally with yourself is important too. So I can't imagine not working out that day. I can't imagine not doing this show. I can't imagine doing something else. And all these things, consistency is important. And you build this rhythm, you build this habit. And at the end, when you start looking back at 100, you're like, wow, I can't believe I've done 100 episodes. I can't believe I worked out this many days. I can't believe that I, reached out to X amount of people every day. Like, all of these things you start adding up and you're like, wow. So consistency matters. So if you're thinking about how can I do this myself, right? Think about whatever the task is at hand and give it a schedule. And honestly, give it an unrealistic schedule that you don't think is possible, right? Like every single day. I don't know if someone uses this hashtag. I don't know if someone uses this kind of tagline, but no days off is something that I've been starting to think about a lot, right? Especially with working out. No days off. Why? Because no days off means you cannot take a day off. It's just not possible. Take some days off for the business maybe. Some people will say, weekends, whatever, but no days off is so important. But by creating this schedule, you're able to really look at your life and say, this is what I have to get done today, right? So the things that I need to get done today, I basically have already done them, and it's 1:12. I have a big meeting at 4 o'clock, though, which I'm excited about with my publisher. We're going to set a lot of things today. Set a lot of things straight. We're going to pick the release date, the actual price, maybe some other things as well. We're getting close, folks. I really don't know what that means soon. Soon you will know when the book is going to be released. The editor is almost done. But think about it, right? So we put on so much busy work into our lives, so much nonsense into our lives that we actually don't get the actual task at hand done. And so we wonder, like, what did I do today? And the answer a lot of times is, I don't know. So instead, think about what you can schedule each and every day, which is pretty much everything. Stick to it and create a rhythm, create a schedule, create a habit so that you make sure that the things that you need to get done each and every day, you do it. And then before you know it, you're at the 100th episode of your podcast just for the live shows. And, almost 200 days working out in a row, reaching out to a bunch of people every day. These things matter. And by gamifying it, by adding to those numbers, it just makes it even better. Thank you so much for watching, consuming, listening to the show. We're 100 down. We got many, many more to go. I think it'll be fun to get to like 1,000, which is what? Roughly 250, 4 years away. But if we're still doing it then, that would be insane. That will be insane to get to 1,000. Maybe that's the next goal, get to 1,000 weekday shows. Now, if I did every single day of the week, it would get there in 3 years, but I'm not doing that. So thank you for always being here. Appreciate you. And let's continue the show on to get to episode 101 tomorrow. 100 is in the books. Super grateful for you guys giving me your attention for just a couple of minutes. If you like what you saw, share it. Share it with your friends. Share the show with your friends. If you have questions for me, as always, hit me up. Thank you.